Hey guys, I finished recording Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door's finale, and I know when it's going up and all that, so it's time to talk about Patreon. So for those of you that don't know, because it's been a while since the last time this came up, there's a Patreon slot on the schedule, and that's currently occupied by the Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door. Basically, the audience gets to collectively choose what I play next each time whatever game is that's in that slot finishes up. And so I've got here the schedule for when that's going to happen. We're going to have nominations on August 4th, which is for people that actually get to pick the games that are on the list. Then on August 6th, we're going to have a vote, which is when everyone gets to vote on the entire Patreon, basically. And then the Thousand Year Door playthrough will be having its finale on August 9th. And then the Patreon premiere for the next series will be on August 11th. Not Patreon. I made that sound like it's a Patreon exclusive. The premiere of the Patreon series will be on August 11th. And so that's when this whole loop happens. I do this as a series of, at this point, of public posts on the Patreon that are gated to whatever tier does that activity. So it'll be a post. You'll see like these things here. And as you can see, there's other votes that have happened in the meantime. I like to do some other votes here and there. So like the Metroid game I ended up playing was chosen on Patreon, but I chose to play a Metroid game, so it was that kind of thing where like to narrow down choices, I sometimes include them here. Like when we pick the next Stephanie game, I wanted to play LSD, and then once we started doing it, the actual playthrough, I was like, this isn't really much of a playthrough game. It's kind of like a little let's try, and then you kind of move on and be like, that was neat. So I was trying to think of last second what game to actually play next. And so we voted on a bunch of games, then voted on Bugsnax versus Spiritfarer because those were the finalists, and that's why we're currently playing Spiritfarer. So like a series of votes like that happened. That's how we chose between Subnautica Below Zero and Resident Evil 8. Below Zero blew Resident Evil 8 out of the goddamn water. There's like behind the scenes stuff for the bouncer. And the first draft of my Annihilation script was on here before it was revised, and I'm going to be including behind-the-scenes stuff for the Annihilation one when I have just some time to put that stuff together, because there's some scrapped stuff that was involved in making that video. I'm trying to have bonus stuff in here and like votes that happen along the way. Because like in a case of like when a game like Paper Mario happens, it can be months before we pick another game, but I try to do other stuff on here too. So if you want to get in all this stuff right now, the $1 Patreon slot, voting supporters over here, gives you pretty much everything. You get to see anything that I put up on this place, all of the bonus votes that happen, any bonus content, and so on, and you get your name in the credits, and it's just $1 a month. The $15 a month thing is to sort of hold it back the deluge a bit, and that's to reduce how many people get to nominate games, because otherwise the vote would be amongst hundreds of games, and that would be incomprehensible and impossible to show. And there's a lot of other problems, because if everyone gets to nominate their own game, they only want to vote for their own game because they nominated that one. So it's important to have one pool of nominators and one pool of voters that are not just the same people repeating. Back in the old day, we actually did just have because I had 12 people on the entire Patreon at certain stages, they could both nominate and vote, but that period ended real quickly because it doesn't work that well. So yeah, $15 a month gets you nominator supporters and gets your name in yellow, so that's the people that you see with the different colored names. And then there's 25 and 50, which are just different colored names in the credits, because people do that, and if they're going to support me on those levels, then I'd like to recognize that in some way, but they don't have extra features beyond that point. So that's the basic gist. If you want to vote in the next vote, and also other whatever votes that happen, and see some bonus content, and also just generally support the channel, you can pledge $1 or more than $1. And if you want to specifically be able to nominate a game, say you're like, why hasn't he played this specific game yet? Be it a new game that I didn't play because I was playing another new game, or some classic you've wanted me to get around to forever and I still haven't, or so on, then you can put that name up on the board and see if everybody else agrees, because it's a big community choice that happens and all that. This Patreon is really important because it's the only reason that this ever became my full-time job, and is still the only reason. I wouldn't really be able to do this off of my YouTube income, being a relatively small channel. Yes, even at 100,000 subscribers, it just don't do that. That's just not how the math works out, unfortunately. And it also kind of frees me up to do these other kind of creative pursuits, like my current stabs into video essays on the new Boring Keith channel, which I guess I'm sticking with. I think I'm just gonna stick with that as the name. Sure, why not? See you guys next time. Link in the description to the Patreon.